and I'd like to welcome you all here today to today's first webinar, Green Enterprise webinar. Nadine's going to present the findings of their Green Enterprise research, and then we'll take questions and answers after that. But first of all, I'm going to hand over to Mary Frances Rochford, who is Programme Manager in the Office of Environmental Sustainability in the Environmental Protection Agency.
Thanks very much, Joe, and thanks to everybody for coming along to what is the first of this year's series of Green Enterprise webinars. Green Enterprise is an annual innovation fund that's led by the EPA. Its ambition is to support innovation for a circular economy in Ireland, and it does this through funding demonstration and pilot projects for new service models or new processes. And Green Enterprise, the funding focuses on priority circular economy materials and systems, including plastic, food, construction and demolition waste, resources and raw materials. We started this webinar series last year in order to share the learnings from the Green Enterprise projects with a diverse and as wide an audience as possible. We see these as an opportunity for the project owners to share their learnings and findings, and we very much acknowledge that things always don't go the way you plan, so we're keen to hear about the successes as well as the challenges and the other opportunities that project owners see for development. It does give an opportunity for those who are looking to do similar work and innovate for the circular economy within their own organisations to hear about these experiences from Irish companies that they might look to replicate. So we do very much encourage lots of questions at the end of today's webinar. And so to today, we have Irish Fish Canners and Nadine located in County Donegal. Irish Fish Canners packs premium quality fish products for brands such as John West and also their own brand products. Fish is an important resource and a core raw material for Irish Fish Canners and is their largest cost item. Irish Fish Canners' Green Enterprise project explored the possibility of minimising fish waste within their supply chain. And I'd like to thank Nadine Bonner for agreeing to present on their project here today. And I'll now hand over to Nadine and wish her well in her presentation.
Thank you, Mary Frances. Okay, thanks again, Mary Frances, and good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Joe Riley for inviting me to give this presentation, but also to the Green Enterprise for their support in allowing us the opportunity to complete this project in Irish Fish Canners. We are very grateful that the EPA have these types of supports available, which allow companies like ours an opportunity to improve our business from an environmental perspective. So with that being said, let me introduce myself. As you heard, my name is Nadine Bonner, and I'm going to further discuss our project, which was minimising fish waste in the supply chain. So I'll give you just a bit of background to Proshiel and Cloughanlea Chornta, which trades as Irish Fish Canners. The company was started in September 1977, and my late father, Michael J. Bonner, purchased the company in 1988. Following his untimely death in 1993, my mother continued to run the company, and both my brother and sister, Keith and Michelle, who you can see at the bottom of your screens there, are involved in the company with me today. As Mary Frances said, we're located in Dunloe, County Donegal, along the Wild Atlantic Way. There are advantages to our unique location as its close proximity to Killybegs, Ireland's premier deep sea fishing port, allows us access to the world's finest fish. But like everything, there are challenges too. The biggest one being that this is an economic black spot, and we endeavour to realise our vision, which is to provide sustainable jobs within the local community by using what nature has provided, allowing us to produce premium quality canned fish from the sustainable cold waters of the North Atlantic Ocean. We have both a dual sort of purpose within the company. We're a co-packer, and we also have our own branded products. So this is just a small selection of the products that Irish Fish Canners produce. You can see that they're split into two categories, the co-packing part of the business and then the own brand. We deal in pelagic fish, packing predominantly both herring and mackerel. The co-packing business has been in operation since 1977. And as you can see, we pack for a number of household brands that feature in all major retailers. The relationships with most of these brands is there for in excess of 30 plus years. And we offer various different can types and a bespoke recipe development option to our customers. These products are available in global markets like the UK, the USA, Jamaica, and Europe. The own brand part of the business is still in its infancy, but we are starting to gather some momentum with these products. We are currently stocked in Lidl nationwide and Northern Ireland for the peppered smoked mackerel and sunflower oil product. And the brine product is available through Lidl's Kickstart program. All three products are stocked in selected SuperValu stores and independent stores throughout Ireland. And these products are also available in selected retailers in Europe as well. This is just an overview of our mackerel line. And this line produces both a 200 gram and a 400 gram can format. The picture that you can see there on the right is just an aerial view of an opened can. And we purchase headed and gutted fish from our suppliers for this line. The whole fish is fed in through the fish filling chamber. And depending on the product, each can will have a number of large chunks of fish and one or two small pieces in it. These products are available in a variety of different sauces, oils, and brine. This picture here represents our kipper line, and this line produces both herring and mackerel products. There is a smoking and a steaming facility available on this line, and we use a variety of different fish cuts and specific sizes of fish which we get from our suppliers. We use things like mackerel butterfly fillets, herring flaps for this particular line. And the size of the fish for both lines, both the mackerel and the kipper line, it's extremely important because this assists us with the fish waste. And this is why we engage with our suppliers and why the relationship with our suppliers is key to the success of the business. So Irish Fish Canners is a verified Origin Green member since 2014. We are a AA British Retail Consortium accredited facility. With the help of Enterprise Ireland and Utheris, we undertook a lean transformation programme, and we continue to implement a lean culture and ethos within Irish Fish Canners. The biggest expense we have is the cost of the fish. And just to give you an idea, the cost of herring and mackerel has increased 40 and 45% respectively year on year over the last 5-year period. This trend does not appear to be declining anytime soon. And obviously, I'm sure loads of people have heard today, the French are at war at the moment off the island of Jersey, so it's not going away anytime soon. So any fish waste that we accumulate, it reduces the bottom line. So this led to this particular project, which we felt had a dual purpose. We were looking, first of all, to reduce the fish waste throughout the process, and also to look for an alternative use for any unavoidable byproduct or waste that was generated. So, as you can see here, there are a number of reasons that Irish Fish Canners undertook this project. We wanted to address the issues from sea to shelf, starting at the suppliers and going right through to the end consumer. These are just some examples of the main areas of consideration for this particular project. We had poor practices in freezing, storage and thawing of fish, over smoking and overcooking, which causes excess moisture leakage from fish, and that can result in the final fish weights being underweight. So we developed process flow charts for each element throughout the product life cycle, and we focused on each process area to identify the opportunities that we have for further improvement. We used experimental design to drive these improvement experiments within our own four walls. We initiated the development of a new product using waste streams, and to quantify the benefits, we used a life cycle assessment also. So here's just a small selection of some of the suppliers we use. Ward Fish, they're based in Killybegs, the Pelagia Group. We deal mainly with Pelagica Shetland. We also deal with Kilkeel Kippering and most of the suppliers in Killybegs. We try where possible to use mainly Irish suppliers, but the fish size and the status, so status being things like MSC, will drive the origin of the fish to a certain extent. In 2020, 2021, 85% of our fish came from Irish boats, but we did have to go outside of Ireland to get the full volume of fish we required, as COVID had an impact on the supply chain, but more importantly, the size that we needed. So this slide here looks at mackerel on the Kipper line. And this is just an example of one of our internal process lines, which we use for our own internal continuous improvement process. This tool helps us to understand the process, to identify the areas for further improvement, and to assist us with measuring key areas like waste. But we also used it to collect the inputs and the outputs at each stage for the LCA process. So in effect, it had a dual role for this. The diamond shapes in green that you can see on the screen there are decisions that must be made and completed throughout this process. These decisions can be both good and bad, but they will determine the route that will be taken. The green lines that you can see on the chart indicate something that is good in the process, something that is either being reused or recycled. The orange colour represents usage, so things like energy, energy, water, salt, etc. They're things that must be there in the process, and they could be looked at again to see if perhaps there's further improvement that can be done there. But for now, they're there to represent usage. And then the other outputs that you can see in orange represent waste. So things like wastewater, fish waste, etc. And they cannot be used for anything else. So in relation to the design of experiment, we looked at this in relation to the round can line, which is the macro line. And the objective here was to identify the optimum combination of quantities of fish and brine that are going into the can to result in the lowest cook loss and implicitly the lowest amount of fish waste that will be generated. So this is just an example of one of the experiments that we carried out. And I'll just draw your attention there to the left-hand side of the slide. You can see that the levels we discovered for the optimum levels for both fish and brine are as follows. So the low for the fish, the lowest that we would put in would be 136 grams to a maximum fish weight of 139 grams. And then the lowest for the brine is anywhere between 61 to 64 grams to a maximum of 105 grams. The sample factorial design chart in the center just represents how we ran the experiment internally. So I'm not going to go into that in any huge detail, but I will draw your attention to the right-hand side of the slide and the outputs that we received from the design of experiment. This basically shows two things. It shows that the amount of brine that we put in has very little effect on the cook loss, but the amount of fish you put in has a significant impact on the cook loss. So if we maximize the fish and minimize the brine, that's the best result. From an economic consideration, the recommended sweet spot uses high fish with low brine or a low medium. Now, obviously, brine is not an expensive commodity, but when we consider something like sunflower oil, which is extremely expensive, this is obviously where we can yield a further monetary saving as well. So another element of this particular project was the development of a new rundown or Caribbean stew product, which we had planned on selling into the ethnic market in the UK. And when we looked at this, we embarked on developing a recipe for this new product. And we put this product through our internal stage gate process. As you can see there are 4 different decision gates in this process. The ultimate result was that the stage gate process did throw up some concerns and challenges that we experienced along the way. The product did proceed through gate 1, however, it did become increasingly clear that there would not be a viable quantity of byproduct available due to the other initiatives that we had undertaken. Having reviewed the costings, it also highlighted that to make this work, we needed to purchase additional raw material, which would be uneconomical given the price of fish. As the next stage would have involved investing in machinery to upscale from this pilot stage, and having identified that there were too many challenges to make this work, we unfortunately had no option other than to kill this at this pilot stage. Now, this is just an overview of the life cycle analysis on the kipper line using mackerel before we made any changes. And then this is the same mackerel on the kipper line after we made the changes. So as you can see, obviously this is an EPA project. So the environmental aspect of this is extremely important. We measured the performance of the project from both an environmental perspective and also a cost perspective. The tables represent the impact using different methodologies. The table on the left, the Eco Indicator 99 methodology, uses millet points, which is a single number for the overall impact, which allows a before and an after comparison to be easily made. The table on the right represents the impact using the EPD methodology. And this methodology doesn't permit the comparison of the overall impact, but only per indicator. But the indicators are measured in units that most people can relate to. So things like kilograms of carbon dioxide, for example. So as you can see, we achieved a number of very positive results. We had a reduction of 26% in waste per tonne of fish processed, 26% reduction in litres of heating oil, 28% reduction of kilowatts of energy per tonne of fish processed. These positive results and our own internal continuous improvement plans led to Irish fish canners carrying out other improvements which are continuing to yield positive results. We carried out a full refurbishment of the cold store in 2020, and this has addressed the poor practices in freezing, storage and thawing of fish that we've mentioned at the outset of this project. A positive energy impact is also being realised with a reduction of 8 hours in the running time on the cold store, as the temperature now is much more stable and able to hold better. The main takeaway that Irish fish canners took from this project is not only that it has helped with our environmental and cost reductions, but it has given us a roadmap for our continuous improvement plan. So I'd like to thank you all for your time. I hope you find it interesting, and I am happy to take any questions that you may have in relation to any of this. Thank you.
Great. So just to thank you very much indeed for that really interesting and a very logical presentation through the project.